Hello everyone, this is Rebecca from Papeterie de Choix, and I thought I would take you along on my little short journey of jarring up the latest inks that I've made. I meant to do it last weekend and just didn't get time, so I'm making time right now to do it. So I already started this one. This is beet juice. That has been sitting in alcohol for about 3 weeks, and so it's almost finished, as you can see, and I just wanted to I guess bring you through the process. It's almost finished, and what I'm going to do is switch jars. I'm going to get a piece of paper. This is my 60-pound cardstock, and just for reference, this pink spot right here is where I spilled the rose when I decanted it, and this piece of a sheet has been through 2 washings with bleach in the washing machine, and it's still got that color, so the color holds pretty well. So this is like I said, this is beet juice, and so I'm going to pull just a little bit out of here, let that sit. Now, something that ought to be noted is with what I've learned so far in doing this is with alcohol inks, when the paper is heated, whoa, that's almost to the top. When the paper is heated, the color gets richer. So I use an iron on mine. Let me grab a pen. Right, you know what, I'm going to use a pencil instead. Beet juice. Now this is beet juice out of beets that we bought to eat, jarred beets from Poland. This was just some juice from it. I mixed it roughly half and half with alcohol. It had some sediment that settled to the bottom that I filtered out, and so this is what's left. Alright, so that's beets. Now the one that I really want to do, and I'm going to set this aside while it dries. The one that I really want to do is my goldenrod, and it was in the last video where I just took a little bit out with the pipette, but I hadn't jarred it up, and that was about a week and a half ago. So I'm really curious to see what it's going to look like now that it's sat just a little bit longer. I mean, looks almost like oatmeal or something, but you can see that yellow. And this is just from the bloom pods of, it's almost green. I probably need a bigger, I don't know if that will help or not. And we'll let that sit for a bit. Yeah, that's really yellow. Now the way I tested this on, or not tested it, but just put the stuff out to dry, in the previous behind the scenes that I showed you, I put the plant material out on a piece of paper and just let it soak in, and I'm going to do that with this. But it's going to take several minutes for for everything to strain through, so I'm going to pause the camera until this is strained and I'm ready to put the plant material down. Okay, so what I've got here is a piece of 60-pound paper, cardstock, and there's just a little bit, you can't really see it, but there's just a little bit of juice left in there, but very little. And I'm gonna, this is the juice I've got so far, not juice, ink I've got so far, but I'm going to set it out of the way so that I don't accidentally turn it over, and I've got the remainder dripping into this beaker that, in fact, let me see if I can take some of them out there. That's probably enough for my purpose here. So what I did with the other test is I just put the plant matter down on the paper, pressed it down like this, and this has obviously got a lot of coverage because there's a lot of plant material, but some of the stuff I did, there was very little plant material, so I didn't have a lot of coverage. Now I'm going to see if I can slide this, because now it's kind of stuck to my, there we go, I just need a little bit of as you can see, that's gone all the way through, so it's nice and yellow all the way. But I'm going to go ahead and cover this side and press it down. And what I found with the different plant matters is when you pressed it, it let go of just a little bit of juice, or a little bit of ink. I tend to call this juice because my mom makes homemade jelly out of juice that looks similar out of different apples and cherries and such, and so it sort of looks like juice. But anyway, I pressed it down to get some of that liquid out, and depending on the plant matter, it makes darker places on the paper. So I'm curious as to how this is going to turn out. But all this is the blooms from a goldenrod. There's a handful of leaves in that kind of got snuck in, but basically I just took the stem in one hand and stripped off all the leaves like this with the other. There's a little bit of liquid in there, but I think that's all I'm going to do to that one. And of course, as it dries, more of these little plant pieces will fall off. But I kind of like the look of that. It looks like handmade paper. In fact, the rose petals that I used on the last one, I let them dry out and I jarred them back up, and I'm going to use them in my paper because even though it took a lot of color out, they still dried with some color in them, so I'm going to use them in some handmade paper when I do another batch. And I'm thinking I'll do the exactly same thing with this, but I'll run it, when it dries out, I'll run it through my blender first and chop it up really good. And I'll use some of this in my handmade paper. Alright. Okay. Yeah, I'm really liking that. Alright. going to go ahead and dump that and pull out the little coffee filter that I used. So you can see there the little bit of liquid that's left. It's got a little bit of liquid. I'm just going to press that down. But yeah, that's got a nice yellow to it. This has got a nice yellow to it. Alright, so I've got 3 more jars that I'm going to do for this little bitty behind the scenes look. So when I'm ready to do the next one, I will be back. Okay, now this one is orange marigolds out of my mother's garden, her flower garden. That's been jarred now for about 6 weeks, at least a month. And I don't know, I mean, I know they're orange marigold, but I don't know exactly what type or whatever, but I know that in her garden they grew about 2 to 3 feet tall and had the big double blooms. So the blooms were like that big and you know, big and puffy. That's turned into a nice orange. So that's definitely a good one. Let me trade over to my little beaker here and let that hopefully finish filling up, and I hope the camera's that it's not so close that it makes the camera weird. But I'm gonna, well, I guess I'm gonna put it over here to the side, because if it falls that way it can fall this way. But look at that color. Isn't that a nice orange? It's not it's orange with just a little bit of maybe a brown hint in it. Okay. I'm going to take some of the leaves and start pulling them out here. Now these are the seeds are in this too, which might lend itself to the brownish aspect of it. Okay, I'm going to start with that and let some more drip into the jar. And see how that goes. It's still dripping pretty good. There's still a little bit in there, so I think I can just go ahead and shake all that out. Look, even the jar's yellow. Okay. Let me set this to the side so I don't bump it. And let's see what this is going to give us. At first glance, set that to the side so I don't bump it. At first glance, it looks very similar to the color of the goldenrod. But these are holding more liquid than the goldenrod did. I can tell that. Let me turn, oh yeah, it's definitely orange, more orange than the goldenrod. For sure, for sure. I don't know if I want to keep this to go in paper. I think if I ground it up, it would definitely grind up small. So I just left the other seeds on that tray that it was on, and I'll do the same with this. This, and I have another pan exactly like it I bought a few years ago when I was baking my coffee dyed paper in the oven. I had bought one that had its logo in the middle here, and so every time I baked paper, the first 2 or 3 pages would have that logo baked into it. So I gave it to my husband to bake on and bought me these 2 that don't have a logo on them. Well, I'm really liking that. Okay. Let's see how this is coming along. Okay, this is right down to the bottom. So, here's the coffee filter with a few seeds inside, and a little bit of liquid. So it looks more yellow now, but I believe it'll dry a little more orange. And turn it over like that. This definitely had more liquid in it than the goldenrod. Okay, so let me pull these gloves off. Because of the nature of the possible staining, I'm using gloves because I don't want yellow, orange, and whatever other color I end up with on my hands in a semi-permanent way. So when I get ready for the next color, I'll be back. This is a cinnamon fern autumn color. So people in the southeast and maybe even further up into the east coast will know probably what a cinnamon fern is, but it's a huge, huge fern that grows in the shade here, not here exactly where I am, but where I grew up in the mountains of North Carolina. It has a spread of anywhere from 2 to 5 feet wide as it matures, and then gets about 3 to 4 feet tall. And then when it's 7 years old, it shoots up spikes in the middle of it that look like cinnamon bark. So that's where it gets its name from. So, but in the fall of the year, it turns this really pretty golden with just little flecks of reddish orange. And so there was a big one at my daughter's, and so I broke about 8 or 10 fronds and stripped the little leaves off. So that's what this is. This has been curing for about 3 weeks. Now I have no idea, I mean I can tell it has a color, but oops, I just spilled it on me. But I don't know what color it's going to be. I'm going to assume sort of light brown, and now that I see it, it might actually turn out to be more of a green color. Or a greenish brown. Looks like it's turning out to be very yellow, actually. I mean, look at that. Can you see that down in there? Let me get it more under the camera. That is a gorgeous, gorgeous yellow. Which is, I mean, the leaves were, when I picked them, they were very, very yellow. Not bright like this, but were very yellow. So I'm going to move it back over this way so that it's not quite so daunting. Let me trade out my little beaker here because it gets old just holding it while it empties there, but it is a little top heavy. Wow, that sort of surprised me. But now it looks like it might be a little bit translucent, but this was on my glove. But now my gloves are stained. I don't know if you can see from the colors I've done so far. This would be from the goldenrod and from the marigold. On these blue gloves you can see what color it started out, and then what color that there is here. And I think it's more from the marigolds actually than it is anything else. But let's take a few of these leaves out, and I have more of these to do, about as many as I have in here. I packed this jar absolutely full. But let me see if I can pull them out and then just let what little bit of juice is in there, let it drain. Let me set this to the side. And set that to the side. I'm a little bit amazed by this color, but like I said, I believe this is going to be a translucent color. Or at least more so than we've seen from the others. But these are not holding as much liquid. The fronds, I don't think, really absorbed in the same way that the marigolds and the goldenrod did. But they are very wet. So, and I can see a little bit of color building up. I've got one more curing going on, but it will probably be, I'll probably let them go for roughly another week. I've got some leaves from a sawbriar, and you can look these up, but it's the autumn leaves, and they were a very rich burgundy, and I let those dry. I also have purple dahlias that I'm curing. That will be in the next batch. And some blue hydrangeas that I'm really, really disappointed in because I was hoping that I would get some blue ink out of the blue hydrangeas, but it sucked the color out and then turned it brown, and all I did was the petals. I didn't do any, just the little bitty pieces of stem that that was hooked to each little, flowerette thing. But yeah, and it's very translucent. So, and on these colors that are translucent, I might just go and take that alcohol, whatever color it is, and add something else to it. I have tons of rose petals of various different colors that I might just add. But I think this paper is soaked up about all it's going to soak up. That spot right there, just don't want to take on much more. So let me clean up this little part, let the papers dry a little bit, and then I'm going to show you a before and after with them, what they look like wet, and then after I put some heat to them and see how it changes it. Because once I put heat on it, they stay that way. They don't lose anything. So I will be back shortly with the results. Okay, here are the papers. They're dry, just naturally air dried. I haven't put any heat to them yet, so this is going to be like a before and after. So the beet juice, obviously I didn't have the plant material, so that's why I did it this way. And I just laid this on top of it to dry, so we got this pattern here from the coffee filter. But this is the coffee filter, and it's dry, and this is actually slightly still damp. So that's that one. This is the goldenrod, and it has two. This is the first one, and the reason it has a second one is because when I poured the plant material, one or two of the little pieces got past the filter and into the mixture, so I had to strain it again, and so that's the second. Do it this way. That's the second coffee filter. This is the first coffee filter, and you can see there's a little bit of like plant silt in there. So this is the goldenrod. Look how pretty that is. I mean, that's like nice and bright yellow. It's like springtime. It's like you'd use this ink on any springtime journal paper. And then this is the orange marigold, which it's a little darker. but it's still more yellow than it is orange, but we'll see what the heat does with that. And you can see where I left some of the needles on, or not the needles, the seeds, when it was drying. I just layered them up between. This is the back side. I use cotton napkins that I find in thrift stores to put between layers of stuff. So this is the orange marigold, and then this is the cinnamon fern. Now this is still slightly damp, but not too damp. But if it didn't take much color, but when you put it next to the white piece of paper, you can see that actually it did take color. It's just very, very subtle compared to the others, but it did take color. So this would be a good thing to just age paper with. And I can see some lines developing here that might be the outlines to some of the fronds when I pushed them down. We'll see how that goes. But like I said, heat brings the color out, so I'm anxious to see how that does. And then this is the coffee filter. Now it didn't take on as much as the piece of paper, but it's still not stark white. So I'm going to iron all this and then come back with the heated dried results, and we'll see how that looks. Okay, so we've got beet juice. I keep wanting to say Beetlejuice. And I realized I didn't show you what it looked like, so this is what it looks like filtered in the jar, and hopefully my light's probably reflecting, but it's a very nice clear red, and this is what it looks like heated up. It's a very nice like coral pink. It looks better on the coffee filter, I think, than on the paper, but I still really like it. I would definitely use it on a journal that I wanted a soft, feminine look. Now from here it gets really interesting. This is the goldenrod in the jar. And here it is on the paper. This is filter number 1 and filter number 2. And now look how bright this turned out. You can see where I had the petals laying and then the spots where they weren't. So this is the front. And I had must have had more over here because it's darker, and you can see a few vein lines, I'm going to call them. That was where the ink soaked to the edge and then dried, I think. And then this is the back side. It just didn't get quite as much, but I really like that color. Now here's the one I'm really surprised with, because wet or first done, they didn't look that different, but look at it now. It's like day and night, or definitely yellow and oranger. Orange, not oranger, but this is the coffee filter from the orange marigolds. You can see where I had the seeds laying down, where the ink soaked in around them, and the back side you can see a little bit of that here. But look at that rich color. I mean, is that not gorgeous? And you can see how the heat brings the color out. I think it just evaporates that alcohol, what little bit's left in the paper fibers, and nothing is left but the color. Now, at first I thought I was going to be disappointed with this, because at first glance it don't look like it did anything, but compared to when it was still completely wet or air dried, you could tell it was whiter than white, and it definitely. But look at the color now. It's not exceptional compared to the others, but I like it if you wanted to give your papers a very light aged look, so that they're like creamy. I like that for that. And you can see a few veins Can see it here, can see it here where I guess the ink stopped with the plant material laying on it. And then the back has got a little bit of coloring, not much, but it's a little more uniform, but it's definitely not white anymore. And so I got one more thing that I want to show you with. I got kind of a surprise. You remember at the very beginning when I spilled the goldenrod, I had this sheet turned the other way. I have a little waterproof mat under it. But when I was moving things around, I found that we have a little kitty cat, or maybe a mouse, right here. This is the spill. So here's its ears and its little feet and its tail. So yeah, we'll see if that washes out when I wash this again. But thank you all very much for watching and going through this little experiment with me. I'm just amazed at the colors that are turning out, and just can't wait to do projects with using all of these. But I want to get all of the ink done before I actually use any, and I've got maybe 5 more jars to go. I know for sure 4. So thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you in another video very soon.